In the last section, we finished up the constructor on the deck class. Now, I'm going to assume that everything worked correctly, but in reality, I don't really know. It would be really great if there was some way that we could kind of inspect this cards property right here on the deck that we created inside of our main function. For example, maybe if we could print out that entire list of cards to the terminal or the console over here, we could then verify that the correct number and type of card is getting added to the cards list right here. So let's try that out. Let's try using that print function that we looked at previously to print out the deck that gets created right here. And maybe we'll be able to figure out what cards actually got inserted into this cards list. So to use that print function, I'm going to assign the deck we created right here to a deck variable. I'll then call the print function and I'll pass the deck in, like so. Then I'll click run on the top right, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so kind of underwhelming. I got an output right here of instance of deck. So what really happens when we pass a variable to the print function? I was kind of hoping we would see all the information that is contained within this deck, but instead we got this very default little bit of information. So let's take a look at a diagram that's going to help us understand what the print function is really doing for us. Okay, so here's what's happening. You and I are calling the print function, and then we're passing in, on here I put value. Technically we are passing in a variable or a reference, but I think you get the idea here. So what the print function does is it looks at that value and it says, hey, do you have a toString method? If that value has a toString method defined on it, it will be executed, and then the result of that method will be printed out to the console. So if we want to customize how any value gets printed out, we can define that toString method, and we can customize what it returns to change what actually gets printed out. Now the toString function right here that I've listed out, this is a very special function name. So when the print function is used and we pass in a value, the print function is going to look specifically for a function called exactly toString. So if we want to customize the print function, we have to define toString on our class. So let's try this out and see what happens. So I'm going to go back over to my code. Here's my deck class. So I want to customize how this thing prints itself out, and I can do so by defining the toString method on it. So I'm going to go down below my constructor, but still inside of the class body, and I'll define the toString function on here. Now, just to make sure that this works the way we expect, I'm going to first try returning a very silly string. I'll say something like, this is a deck, like so. So now that we've defined this toString function, print up here is going to call toString anytime we pass in an instance of a deck. We're going to return this string right here, and the print function is going to use this string as the representation of our deck. So let's now try running this code again and seeing what happens. Okay, and so now we see this is a deck as opposed to the previous instance of deck that we had before. Okay, so that definitely works to customize our print statement, but we're still not really able to view the data that exists inside of our list of cards right here. So let's take a quick pause. We'll come back in the next section, and we're going to continue working on this toString function.